Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Pocomoke City Mayor and Council work session. Today is Monday, August the 10th. It is 6:30 p.m. Before we get started, I'm going to ask you to join me in a moment of silence for Councilmember Burl Feinberg, a former council member for the city of Rockville, who won her courageous battle with cancer this morning. Thank you. We extend our deepest sympathies to the Feinberg family, and we want to thank Burl for all of her work that she did all across Maryland. Moving forward to item number 2, discussion on ordinance 2026-0-12, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Pocomoke City, Maryland, amending the Pocomoke City Code, Chapter 160, entitled Littering, and Chapter 195, entitled Solid Waste. Ms. Matthews.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I am asking tonight that you allow for staff to do further work that is necessary before this is presented to you guys. Given some of the legal language involved, we believe that it would be appropriate to conduct additional review and bring the matter back before Council once the language and guidelines have been fully reviewed and clarified.
I agree. My thing is, there is a lot that needs to be worked out in this because, again, the point that I brought up in the mayor and council meeting, I put out my trash at 7:40. It's not picked up until 11 o'clock. Anything could happen between 7:40 and 11 o'clock, and for you to say you're going to give me a $5,000 fine, you know, against the city's policy, it's not like somebody's going to go in my house and get my trash for me or something like that. So I feel like there are still a lot of kinks that we need the staff to work out before it comes to us for final approval. So Andrew, do we have to table this or?
I mean, I thought we were just sort of discussing what the kinks are that need to be worked out. So if it's just removing the presumption language, okay, that's, I mean, Mr. Wyatt covered that last time. You know, basically, it's gonna require watching it, asking the court to still consider the trash came from that property. The 5,000 is the maximum fine. The fine, if you feel more comfortable leaving it in, but capping the fine at $500 for a first offense, because it's also going to have the suspension of services, and the goal is really to cease this, but to focus on the suspension of services, and then escalate to a subsequent violation in a year is subject up to a $5,000 fine. That can be another way to go about it.
My question is, what are our safeguards, right? How, I could easily say, if somebody came to me and presented a bag of waste or something like that, and they say it was in your trash, I could easily say, no, it wasn't. What are our safeguards? What is the liability of proof and things like that? I just feel like I would rather see the staff work on something else than bring it back to us in a work session. But where it stands right now, I'm ready to cross almost everything out. I do think that the waste and trash receptacles, it does need to be addressed. But I also don't want us to put ourselves in a box where we're spending more money legally versus what we're already putting out now.
And it doesn't seem to be a recurring issue. It doesn't seem like it's happening very often.
But if you tell me that there was poop in my trash can, and I'm going to get a fine, or this is going to happen, or that is going to happen, how are you going to prove that that was in my trash can?
I agree.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not happening that often, it just doesn't seem like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would just suggest that staff takes a look at it, redo this whole ordinance, and just make it make sense.
and see what other towns, cities, what they have.
So in your research, make sure you check in neighboring cities. But we're gonna get talking about neighboring cities and the state in a couple minutes, so, you know. Are there any other comments? All right. Well, let's move on to item number 3, discussion of ADUs, accessory dwelling units. Ms. Tremblay, I just want you to come up here, give us a brief synopsis of your memorandum. We all read it, so we can jump in, and I've got some questions for you.
Certainly. So this is really just to open up the discussion. So you do have a bit of a time frame where you have to get this done by October 1st. But as I mentioned in my staff report, you know, if there are certain components of it that might take more time, we can always come back and edit that once it's adopted. So I think, and I know that Andrew has been preparing a draft. I haven't had an opportunity to review it, but I think I wanted to kind of bring open these questions because I want to hear from you guys as to what you want, because my experience with accessory dwelling units is a lot different from what the city is going to need, because I was looking at things like barn dominiums where they were taking a pole barn and trying to put an accessory apartment inside the pole barn while they had this massive single family dwelling. Now you do have a number of neighborhoods with larger homes with larger lots that can accommodate those larger type accessory dwelling, but I think what I'm most concerned about is what you guys want and what you see for the smaller lots, like say in Clark Avenue and down on these other streets, because it may be an instance where there just isn't a lot of setback area left to put it on. So we might get into a discussion where we say, oh, you can have a 500 square foot house, which is 1 bedroom, has a kitchen, has housekeeping facilities, including a washer, dryer, the kitchen, the bedroom, a bathroom, and you're done. But
So, just so I'm clear, the state's 75% is basically the maximum allowed under definition, but that does not necessarily mean that the city has to allow the ADU to be that large, correct?
that's correct. To me, that says that that's how they wanted to define it.
Right.
Because if you had a single family dwelling that was 2,000 square feet and you had an accessory apartment that was 2,000 square feet, to me, that's 2 principal single family dwellings.
Right, and so that's my concern with 75%. Depending on the size of the house, at 75%, you'll have 2 substantial dwellings.
Yes.
Right there together. So that's the defeating purpose. So I wanted to ask you, what problems would we face allowing an ADU of 75% of the primary dwelling? What problems do you see? But besides 75%, you could end up having 2 houses depending on how big a house is.
Well, not just that. You would have like 2 large structures on 1 small lot. But the other issue would be is if you have it up to that 75%, which I certainly don't recommend that you guys go to, is that we're looking at significantly more sewer capacity needed, more water capacity needed, multiple bedrooms, and then that really eats into your parking. So depending on how you guys want to play it with the parking aspect, that can also affect the size of the dwelling unit as well.
So I went and did some math, right? Mm-hmm. Just so we can throw 75% out of the window. At a 1,000 square foot house, that would be 750 square feet. At a 120 square foot house, that would be 900 square feet. At a 1,500 square foot house, that would be 1,125 square feet. At 2,000 square foot, that would be 1,500 square feet. And at 2,500 square feet, that would be 1,875 square feet. So I think
It's pretty big.
that we just need to throw the 75 out. So I did a little bit of research. I was looking at Queenstown, I'm sorry. I looked at Queenstown, and they do 50%. I looked at Anne Arundel County. They also do 50% or 800 square feet, depending on which is lesser. Here in Worcester County, according to what you provided us, the county only does 35 of the principal dwelling or 90 square feet, whichever is less. And then I also took a look at Annapolis, and Annapolis has 850 square feet maximum for the ADUs, or 50%, depending on which is less. So there are a lot of different, I polled a lot of different places. Queenstown isn't huge, right? Annapolis, I also did Rockville, and Rockville is at 50% as well. So it seems as though 50% is the going for larger municipalities and smaller municipalities. So I think that we should throw 75 out of the window, and I think that we should focus mainly on 50% or 850 square feet, depending on which is lesser.
Well, Worcester County is 35.
Worcester County is 35. I think that is too small.
But there's a caveat with that as well, on the 35%. So you have to have a minimum of 500 square feet. So your main dwelling has to be 1,400. If your house is 1,100, you're not getting an accessory apartment. That's where the challenge I found with Worcester Code.
So I'm not opposed to accessory. I'm not opposed to the dwellings, and I understand that people have housing needs, but we have to make sure this works right for Pocomoke City. Because you look at my house, based on this, I could build darn near another house right on that property and have the houses right up next to each other. I just feel like we need to find the perfect fit for Pocomoke, and I just think that 35 is not enough. I think that 75 is way too much. So I think that middle ground of 50% is probably, it would be a good place for us to fall. That's just my thoughts.
And you guys might want to consider a little bit further beyond that. So if you're looking at a lot that's less than the minimum required for an R2.
But
so
we should
you have
a minimum too.
like so say you have a lot that in R2 district it was 7,500 square feet. It doesn't even get to that point. You might want to say, well, if the lot size is less than the district regulations, the accessory dwelling unit must be contained within the house or attached to the house, because we're going to get into a lot of setback issues when they start to try to do these detached, because they're going to say, well, is it 6 feet to the side? Is it 10 feet to the side? And then are they throwing parties that are going to irritate the neighbors? Do we want them to be fenced in this area? Things like that. So you might want to say, if it's less than the minimum district requirements, it must be attached or it must be within the unit. Because when I was looking at accessory dwellings, that could be just an extra stove in the house. So you might have like a pathway to get to grandma. She has her own kitchen. You shut the door. She knocks when she wants to come over. Your washer and dryer might be on the main side of the house. But if she has a stove,
Turn her mic up.
if she has a stove and what they call housekeeping facilities, so a stove, a washer, dryer. If you have a microwave, I don't consider that housekeeping facilities. If you have a fridge, because you can have fridges in your garages all the time, those aren't the things that would make it an accessory apartment. Because you can still build that extra living space and it not be considered an accessory apartment. As soon as you add a stove and have those housekeeping facilities is when you get into accessory dwelling. So I guess the next thing would be, is this something that you want to be by right, or do you want to go through conditional use process? I've seen some interest, but I don't know if it's enough that it would be overwhelming the Board of Zoning Appeals. I don't know if there would be enough, like we would have 2-3 cases every month, and at that time we might say, whoa, I think we got too many, we might need to pull it back and think about it being by right. that's something that you guys need to direct me on, is this something that they come in for a building permit, and as long as they meet our requirements, XYZ, we issue the building permit and off they go? Or we take individual case by cases to the Board of Zoning Appeals and say, here's their setbacks, here's what this is gonna look like.
I would much rather it be case by case and go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. These kinds of things are things that I always think need official processes in place. And that way that the public knows what's going on. Sometimes we have neighbors. What if this is blocking my view? What if I specifically purchased this house for this view, and now someone is going to put an accessory dwelling unit on their property, and it's going to block the view of the house that I purchased, and that was the reason. So I feel like we definitely want to leave the door open for conversation. We want to leave the door open for neighbors. Some neighbors may feel like, hey, this isn't working, and I know you can't tell people what to do on their properties, but at the same time, if we live in a neighborhood, and that's the other thing, we also have to look at the culture of specific neighborhoods, right? We have to look at whether an accessory dwelling unit will fit in said neighborhood. An accessory dwelling unit on Market Street, closer to downtown, what does that necessarily look like? You know, there are a lot of questions, so I feel like it would behoove us to put it in the hands of the Board of Zoning Appeals each time.
And they might need additional board action while they're there, so they might need a variance to the setbacks. Like I said, we might run into little tight lots where they have to encroach over that setback line. I would agree with that. And you can always, the board can set reasonable conditions. A reasonable condition might say, we have a row of evergreen trees just to block the accessory dwelling from the main dwelling on the adjacent lot. So I think that would be a good path forward.
So my recommendation tonight is that we kind of lock in on the 50% or 850 square feet, which is lesser, planning that it goes before the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I think that we should come up with a minimum for the square footage. That way, some of these properties, we won't even have to hear from them. If your house is too small, then your house is too small. And we also always have to take into consideration our wastewater and sewage treatment plant and what it can actually handle.
And it might be within the code itself, subject to Public Works approval or something to that effect, so that we can make sure that they can tie in, that they can get that connection if needed.
Fire marshal? Fire marshal.
Fire marshal, yes, there will be sprinkler requirements for anything that's stick-built. Now, that's the next question, is how do you feel about manufactured homes or modular homes as accessory dwellings?
I gotta add something. Just received a text. ADUs in Maryland require a restroom.
That's correct.
So then it can't just be one bedroom. So I think that we do need to keep that it's required to have its own restroom. That's all.
Do you remember what the building code said about the bathroom size? Minimum 80 square feet, I believe.
I know it's 36 inches for the doorway.
The doorway, yeah.
It's gotta be so many feet for your knees to a cabinet. Is it 40? I feel like
I think it's at least 50,
is it
but
40 or 50?
yeah. So, that would easily get you to that minimum of 500. So I believe that the size of a single-family dwelling minimum in city code is 950 square feet. So that is the smallest a house can be. So that doesn't include your tiny homes, which you would traditionally think of. And then the other thing is some people might come in with trailers and say, this is a tiny home, can I put this here? So we need to really define, is it stick-built? It looks exactly like the house. It's attached to the house. You know, it looks like an extension of the house versus, okay, we got this thing from the campground, and we bring it into the lot.
So that's something else that I would add. It would need to look like an extension of the house. So if the house is tan with burgundy shutters, this accessory dwelling unit has to be tan with burgundy shutters. If your house is green, the accessory dwelling unit needs to be the same color of your house. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm dominating the conversation.
No, you are, you saying all the stuff we're looking, thinking, or wanting to ask.
No, this is great. I mean, that is the point. It's like, we're just bringing up these things to like get you thinking about it, because they're going to come into your neighborhoods and someone might put one right next to you.
But this is what a work session is all about.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, how much are we gonna charge for accessory dwellings? I mean, that's another question.
Square footage.
I would go by square footage, yeah.
Square footage is
Yeah.
kind of what we do now. Price of the job, square footage.
I agree.
Not to cut in, she's already covered it. Jag is great. You just have to remember, it's a detached building. Electric's gotta get there. Sewer's gotta get there. Water's gotta get there, which includes fire suppression, which is 2 water lines. So that's 2 meters, 2 water, 2 sewer, or another sewer. There's a lot more than just sticking a 12 by 12 garage
So
in
what
somebody's
would be what I'm asking is, what would be the initial permit fee? Hey, I wanna get this ball rolling. What is my fee just for my application?
Well, I would say that if you're taking it before the Board of Zoning Appeals as a conditional use, your standard rate right now is $550 to take it to the BZA, and then you would get your fees for any advertisements after it's been put into the paper. So that has a separate amount line item based on how much the newspaper is going to charge. That seems like it would be a fair amount to me.
No trailers, no RVs.
No trailers, no RVs.
And then also, water and sewer impact fees. If it's never been water or sewer, it's $7,000.
Yeah, I was about to say,
$3,000
so are they
for
gonna,
water,
are they gonna be
$3,000 for
charging for
sewer.
that too? That's what I was
If
thinking.
that's a brand new system, it's gotta be tapped into us. That means it's $3,500 for water and $3,500 for sewer.
So my question is, after this leaves us, once the legislation is drafted based on what we're saying today, you're going to move it through the Planning and Zoning Commission, correct?
Correct.
And then you're going to send it to Board of Zoning Appeals, or you're going to bring it right back to us?
We'll bring it right back to the council.
Okay.
The council would only be making the action on whether it is appropriate for the location that's been proposed. That would be their only role in this. They should not be looking at the code itself.
Well, but see, here's the thing. While we shouldn't be looking at the code itself, it does have to come back to the mayor and council for final approval. So we have to take everything in totality into question. Even if that is our primary function in this, once it comes back, it has to be voted on by the body for it to go through.
Yes, so the planning commission and the council are better equipped to handle this discussion. I don't think that the board is in a place where they're just looking at whether the use is appropriate on a case-by-case basis.
Because what we don't want a situation where the Planning and Zoning Commission sits and works on this for months, then it comes back to us and we're like, nope, and we throw it out the window. And then we're staring October is staring at us down the barrel.
Do you have any future work sessions planned or anything that I can touch base with you and say, hey, it's still under development with the Planning Commission. Here's the overall gist of what they're working on. Have you guys had any new thoughts? And then maybe we can incorporate it while I'm working with the Planning Commission.
So what I would recommend is that we have another work session with proposed legislation that comes to us. We look through it, we give you the okay, we give you consensus for you to send it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. After the I know time is tight
Yeah.
because it's October 1. So that means y'all would have to literally get it done before the end of the week for us to put it back on another agenda, for us to send it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Or we could have a joint work session
I'm
with
just
the
about
Planning
to
and Zoning
suggest that,
Commission.
yep. You could, I don't know how many joint work sessions you've had with the Planning Commission, but that is another option.
We've never had any, but it doesn't mean we can't. It's Pocomoke.
That's correct.
The planning commission's meeting August 27th. So that's when, because that will then be available. You won't meet on the first Monday of the month because it's a holiday. So your first meeting in September will be the
5th,
8th.
8th.
So that will be the first reading. The public hearing will be advertised for the 21st, but I have to look, this is a land use change, and there's sometimes requirements for 14 days of advertisement. So because of when the meeting falls, you might have to have the public hearing on the 28th.
So when is the Planning and Zoning Commission meets on the 27th?
Correct.
What day of the week is that?
Thursday.
A Thursday. Is it possible to get the Planning and Zoning Commission in a week early? Just for the wiggle room?
I can attempt to reach out. I know that Harold is out of town until the 20th, and that is your chair. So that would be the 20th, would be that Thursday.
So that doesn't work.
Even if it's just a case where you are presenting to us and them what you all have come up with thus far, for them to for us to toss suggestions back out, and then at their meeting it is introduced, they go through the process, then it comes back to us for final approval. Even if it's a joint meeting where you're literally just going over with a PowerPoint slide, this is what we came up with a copy of the legislation.
I believe that's something we can handle, yeah.
So the only real problem with this bill is the city's code defines an accessory use already. So now, so think of a shed, and there's a bunch of regulations on that accessory use, but this is a shed and a house are two different things. And so this is gonna require either rewriting the definition of accessory use or trying to find a way to wedge this in. That's been the struggle so far.
Well, see, the issue with wedging something in is that while everyone here will understand what that wedge was, think about how many times we see something from 92, 93, and we're like, what the heck were they doing? Why would they do this? And it's a perfectly logical explanation. So I don't think that we need to wedge it. We might have to change some definitions.
Well, that's going to require an extensive rewrite.
Right.
So that's where time becomes an issue. We have a draft ready. We've just been dealing with trying to find ways to reconcile it. Additionally, MACO has taken the position that you cannot limit it by special exception. There is a clause in the bill that says that a restriction on use regarding land use may not impose or act to impose an unreasonable limitation on the ability of the property owner to develop an accessory dwelling unit, and that the recommendation has been that limiting by special exception is more extensive than an unreasonable limitation, because special exceptions come with their entire own list of criteria that have to be met. I'm not saying it can't be done. There is just a concern. Will somebody challenge? I don't know. I mean, Mr. Wide brought up a lot of the truth of developing on some of the smaller lots in Pocomoke. It's just not actually feasible. When you factor in the cost to connect to water sewer, the building structure costs, development permits,
Sprinklers.
sprinklers, because they're going to be required. It's possible you could just buy a neighboring parcel for about the same price. When I looked on Zillow for, just some sort of smaller square footage houses, given what it costs to build nowadays, that may be a limitation. So we will have a draft done. We will circulate that. I think it seems 17th is a very busy docket for the normal working agenda.
Is it? Because we haven't had an agenda meeting.
Well, just from the general
Yeah.
number of individuals coming for alcohol applications.
Well, here's the thing though. The mayor and council approved their own agenda. Maybe they'll be on, maybe they won't.
So if mayor and council wants to have another work session on the accessory dwelling unit on the 17th, we can definitely make sure something's together on this by the 14th. That this Friday. You can look at it over the weekend, talk about more on the 17th. Provide comment. The 27th, planning commission can meet. If mayor and council can meet in a joint session with them, we can try to arrange that. And then that will be clear that when it comes to first reading in September, it'll be good to go. And there'll be less edits. So that's a rough timeline. We can try to, I think it might, the 17th might just be pack and pillow night.
Sounds good.
So is Mako taking the stance, or they're saying the General Assembly is starting to
It's-
fine tune it down?
In other counties, there
I
have been
would-
other working groups where it's been advised that the opening language of the bill is the General Assembly strongly encouraged by accessory dwelling.
I would recommend that you reach out to Angelica Bailey for the Maryland Municipal League.
Okay.
She handles legislation. I'll send you her email address after the meeting.
Okay.
Or I'll do an introduction email.
That'd be great.
You too, Andrew.
I know Angelica.
Oh.
It's kind of like committee together.
Okay, that's right.
So, I'm not saying it, the counties I advise have made it by right. So, and the position has been that, much like solar, and there's ways you can craft your solar legislation to make it very restrictive, ending up in litigation over this. Nobody wants to go to litigation over
Sick of
feces
it.
in the trash, let alone over accessory dwelling units.
Right.
So,
Over a mother-in-law suit.
so we'll just look at that some more.
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay.
You do have some other items I'd like a little bit more direction on, if you don't mind. So parking regulations.
Lord have mercy. Let the Planning and Zoning Commission handle that.
Okay, that's fair. Any other items you'd like to discuss with me on this one?
I mean, we do have to make sure that there is ample parking, but they have a better grasp on those types of things, and I'd rather hear their recommendation.
So again, this also only has to be in areas where there are already residences, so like in the commercial zone, you're not gonna have accessory dwelling units. So we're really talking downtown, the heart. I think the larger lots are more across the highway.
They're across the highway, and then they're kind of south Pocomoke, yeah.
And council already put in requirements last year about the historic district and needing to get specific roofing pitching, and I think a lot of that's gonna encourage the preservation of downtown and the character and charm that's there. So I will work with Kristen in the coming days. We will get this tightened up and something to you for Friday to hopefully either to make as part of a work session on Monday and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving forward to item number 4, discussion of lot line adjustments for 2 Riverside Drive. I can start this conversation, and Mr. White, I'll let you pick it up. So, one of the frequent conversations that we have as a body is about selling the restaurant when the time is right and when things become available, when we're finally able to do it. If we decided today that we were going to sell the restaurant to Riverside Drive, not only would the purchaser get the restaurant, but they would also get the dock. We have to split the dock from the restaurant. Mr. Wyatt.
Did you all get the paper?
Microphone.
I tried to outline it, and yours might be in color, mine ended up being black and white. But the outline, if you see at the beginning where the bridge is, and then it goes down to say like a triangle, where you see where it bears down where that boat is. Well, to me, that's where we should do our lot line adjustment there. Then it just contains just the area of the restaurant, because if not, if you notice, that line I've got that's in bold goes all the way down to the boat ramp. So that's one lot. And misconception years ago, just nobody ever looked at it or whatever else. And when we got looking at it, I mean, that literally goes all the way down. And so potentially down the road, if anything were ever to happen, city changes its stance or makes a decision on something else, Mr. Knock was correct. If you sell that restaurant, that whole strip of land goes with that restaurant. So that means somebody potentially, because if I'm not mistaken, you can put a fence right on your lot, right on your line. So somebody who just wanted to be somebody, you know, could run a fence all the way down our dock. So that's why I think it's very, very, very important. You might be able to see it on your guys. There's a concrete like walkway, and it's right to where the back of Dockside Restaurant's fence is. That would be my suggestion. Now, of course, that's going to take lot line adjustments. It's going to take the county. It's going to take somebody have to do a survey. But I think it would behoove the city to retain that section of land and do it before anything possibly down the road 3, 4, 5 years. It would already be taken care of, it would be done, and it wouldn't be a formality that we'd have to go through 4 or 5 years from now. Yeah, it just protects the city and the docks. I mean, that's our bread and butter.
So, Mr. Wyatt, you were looking for permission to go ahead and get the process started?
Yes, if we could, especially working with Ms. Tremblay here, if we could try to, like I said, it's probably going to take where you guys would like to go. I mean, that was just my suggestion, because then it's right to their fence line now. We can say that was their line, was their fence line, and we're going to have to get up, probably going to have to put an RFP or something else out to get a surveyor to just. And it is a simple lot line adjustment. He just got it.
Go ahead. So go ahead, put out the RFP. Give people a month to bid, so we will be ready at our second meeting in September to, because you've mastered RFPs. Like, you can run one tomorrow morning. Our second meeting in, I said December, I meant September.
You said September.
Oh, okay, I'm
It's
sorry.
gonna be floating because we gotta check the legislation timeline,
Right, okay.
because of the holidays.
Roughly,
Yeah.
present the RFPs back to us.
Okay.
We'll go ahead, we'll give approval when we're able to, and you'll go ahead and get this process started. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you're not gonna have any pushback from the current owners, are you, with this
It's-
situation? I know, you know what I mean.
It's just actually it's city property, and it's already on us, and it would be. To be honest, up until about 4 years ago when we first started talking about this, nobody even knew this anyway.
Understood, I just wonder, because
Well,
like you said,
honestly-
you know, can be.
Honestly, until tonight, there were very few of us that actually knew, and it wasn't 4 years ago. We started talking about it last summer. When we first started talking about
Yeah.
unloading properties, we were out to the clubhouse,
Uh-huh.
and you were looking at a map, and you looked at me and said, "Holy," da-da-da-da-da, and I said, what's wrong? So it's only been a year that some of us have known it.
Yeah.
But now is the opportune time. If our intention is to sell it within the next 3 years, then we need to go ahead and get this handled.
All right, I'll take care of it.
Okay, so I'm looking at it right now, so you have to advertise for at least 14 days before the hearing. So if the introduction of the ADU bill is gonna be on the 8th, it's gonna not be possible to get that. 21st is gonna be a tight
All right, moving forward to discussion, to item number 5, discussion and determination of event permit processes and approval by the mayor and council. So I can jump in with this one. We have, historically, we've put more on the city clerk than should have been on the city clerk's plate. We do have an events coordinator for the city now, and I think that all of these permits should go through Mike Shannon. It should be Mike that issues these permits for people to have events. Now, the biggest question is size of the event. What events do we want Mike to just handle? Do we just want Mike to handle city-related events where they're requesting to utilize city facilities? Or do we want Mike to handle the big events? And do we want it to come to us? Do we want it to only go through Mike? That's what staff is asking for today, the policy and procedure for these events. Or do we want it to stay kind of with Lacey? So thoughts?
I think it should be under the purview of the events coordinator, so I don't think it should stay with Lacey. Mike does have extensive experience handling events of all sizes. I don't really have any reservations with him handling large events.
I agree. I've seen him.
Yeah,
Out.
Hope Docking is large.
I was gonna say, I've
Yeah,
seen what he
are
can
y'all
do.
going on Saturday?
Absolutely.
You coming?
Oh, no, I got to see.
You know, we used to have a good
I
time.
got to see.
I've never been to it.
You should go.
I'm gonna pick you up.
He ain't come pick me
Shorty,
up.
wanna ride with me, ride with me?
He ain't go.
So I have
And don't you come up here starting nothing.
So I have a question. So some of the events, like the larger events that would happen at the fairgrounds or at in Cypress Park, do you just want us, even if they're large and Mike Shannon is handling them, do you just guys want notification that those events are being
Yes.
happening?
Yes, and we want you to make sure that they're following proper timelines.
Lines. Okay. That's what I think that was the biggest issue. We were trying to figure out what is it that you want to.
Now, he does not handle alcohol.
No.
Alcohol still comes
That's
before
before
the
you
mayor and
guys.
council.
Yes. Okay.
And what is our permitting process? So I'm not saying that we charge people. I'm not saying that we charge people out of the wazoo, but the county's charging people for these day uses, and we have to give them approval as well. So I think that's something that we should honestly look at is our alcohol permit process as well. I'm not saying that we jump in with a large fee, but the same amount that the county's processing is the same amount that we're processing. While we can't authorize people to sell alcohol, we're still a part of the process. So we really need to take a look at our process, because you remember when they changed the law last year, we struggled with the letter that had to come from me and all of that kind of stuff. Any more discussion?
So are we still asking the people that get the permits to come before us when they come, or are they going to Mike Shannon now?
Look, for which one? For
Oh,
which-
when they get, for anything,
The
like
big
when they get the
events.
approval or whatnot, where we were asking them to come in before with their application.
Right.
So
So,
are we requiring that now still? or-
so I think that if we stick with having work sessions like we're supposed to, and y'all, Ms. Diane, you know I've been fussing about this for years, we should be having a work session every month. All of the legislation that we vote on should be coming before us in a work session before it comes to us in a mayor and council meeting. If we could stick to having one work session a month, those permits or those types of events and stuff, they don't have to be on, because it's not legislative, right? They could literally just be presented to us in a mayor and council work session. We say what we need to say, we go on about our business. Those things are not legislative. Our agendas are too packed with things that have no business in a legislative meeting.
Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? All right, well, we don't have to make a motion to adjourn, right?
You can for the record, since somebody.
Can we get consensus to adjourn, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good good one.